if you don't know it, Spiel happened the other week.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of got a little, we talked about Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
But now that's over, we got a bit more of all the new stuff coming in.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that right now.
Of course, we weren't there.
No.
Sadly. Or maybe not, because I would be really tired right now. But this is just from secondhand, almost dropped my phone, secondhand reading about them online, but hope maybe it'll give you some idea if you haven't been keeping up what kind of games there are, some of the ones I think we're looking forward to. There were a lot, so this is just a handful.
Shocker.
I know, this is a big shocker. First up, we got 2 new games, both from designer Uwe Rosenberg of Agricola, Caverna, etc., etc. The first one is A Feast for Odin, and if you couldn't tell from the title, it's Norse mythology themed. Ooh, Vikings and stuff. So this is basically a super heavy Euro game. Tons of components, tons of cardboard stuff. You're Vikings, you're trying to settle, you're getting resources, you're settling lands, you're building things, and you're trying to get favor of the gods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's that kind of, it's more, in the style, more along the lines of, it's like his other games, Caverna, that kind of thing. A big Euro game, but not with a farming theme, which is a nice touch.
I did hear some very good things about it. Like, a lot of people really liking it.
Yeah, I mean, his games are always super popular. The next one I find really interesting, which is Cottage Garden. And this is basically a reworking or sequel kind of to Patchwork, which is the opposite end of the spectrum of his other games, much, much lighter. And so it works a lot like Patchwork in that you're getting these different shaped Tetris pieces and mashing them on your board.
But we're making a little garden?
This time it's a garden instead of a quilt.
So we're still getting the farming.
Right. He had to guess it in there somewhere.
He's just like, I can't do it anymore. I need to make more farming.
But what's different, very different about this one, first of all, it accommodates more than 2 players. I'm not sure how many, but I believe it's more than 2. You have 2 boards, 2 smaller boards to fill in. And when you complete one, you get another one. So you're constantly filling boards, and at the end of the game, it's after so many rounds, it's your points from all the different boards.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot different. And
so you're not making one big quilt, you're more making a bunch of these little gardens all over the place.
Exactly, and some of them have things like maybe this space you don't want to fill in for some reason.
It's got a nice little fountain there.
I kind of like it. Sounds kind of good to me because it sounds more. It sounds almost even more relaxing because you have multiple, you don't have to worry as much. Oh, I screwed this one up. This one's you can
not only
finish
that,
them.
I think compared to quilt, it's sort of like you can sort of. I mean, sure, it matters on order and all this stuff, but in the end, you can sort of think, okay, I know these are always the best pieces. But now, depending on which board you get, you could be like, oh, this isn't very good right now because I don't want to fill in those spaces. But on this board, it might. So
right, and if you have 2 at once, you even have even more options to think about. But it's still the same like a guy, which pieces you can pick from, that kind of thing. So that sounds interesting. We like Patchwork a lot.
Oh yeah.
Next up, from another big designer, Stefan Feld, who did, among other games, La Isla, which we liked, which I may be saying wrong. We always say La Isla. I don't know if it's La Isla, La Isla, La Usla. This new game is called The Oracle of Delphi, and I also don't know if I'm saying that. Is it Delphi? I think it's Delphi. It's a goddess or whatever. Anyway, based on Greek mythology stuff. Basically, you're going around and you're trying to get Zeus's favor, and you're rolling dice. They have different colors depending on what you roll. You can do different actions.
So we're presenting him women.
Yes, you're exactly, and it sounds like his other games, like La Isla, where there's like a bunch of different ways to get points. It's trying to get points kind of game, and depending on what you get and where you're going, you can get points, that kind of thing. But big developer, big designer. So that's one you might want to keep your eye on. Next one, very interesting, Gloomhaven. Have you heard about this? I think this might have been, I think it started as a Kickstarter, if I recall correctly. It's a fantasy-themed game, but it's also a legacy game. It's basically a dungeon crawler, fully cooperative, but it's a lot of, you're putting stickers on the board, all that kind of thing. But the thing that made it sound really interesting is that unlike most legacy games, it's very story-based, and depending on which paths you take, other people could actually potentially play a simultaneous game with the same copy. So like you could have one group of people playing from this game their own campaign, and another group with their own. So they won't necessarily contradict each other.
That could be interesting.
Yes. Or you could even do, I guess, one game then another game instead of like it being done.
Well, it would definitely be interesting, especially considering our group. Or at the point, I almost have 2 groups now. Like I have the one group that just does the Star Wars RPG, but honestly, that's almost like another game group now.
Right.
And then, while most of them do come to ours, like we've noticed, we have the main 4 really for recently now, and then imagine if you had the 2 going separate. And we even talked about this with the Star Wars campaign, because I've been doing this one with them, and if we started our own and be like, what if like they interacted with each other somehow, like, so like what if there was something, you're playing this game and because one group raided a village, you go to the village and you can't buy things there because they already burned it to the ground or something.
That sounds awesome. It's almost like Animal Crossing, where if you both live in the same town and someone like chopped down all the trees and you're just like, why'd you chop down my trees?
Now that's our new thing. We gotta talk to Nintendo. Animal Crossing Legacy.
I'm there. I'm right there with you. That's also the name Gloomhaven is pretty sweet. Gloomhaven. Next is another one of them also that I'm super. It's probably the one I'm most excited about. Comes from Czech Games.
52 card pickup.
Love it. Love picking up those cards. No, it's called Adrenaline, and it's essentially the board game version of a first-person shooter. It doesn't use any dice. You're going around. Everybody has their own character, and it's a modular board. You're going around the map. And like I said, it's like an FPS. There's ammo on the board. You can move around and pick it up. And if you get shot and you die, you respawn somewhere and you go back and keep shooting people.
All right.
And there's some kind of a system in which the lower your health is, the more you can do and the faster you can move. So it's like that last struggle kind of thing that happens in some games. But it's gotten really good reception, and that it's a concept that I've never really seen a game that tried to do that.
Well, here's my question. 1, when I kill you, am I allowed to teabag you?
That's important.
2,
can you send me a text racial slur?
Can I insult your mother while we play?
Yeah, that will be
do I
an
get a bonus?
expansion. Very necessary. That's vital.
3, are there different weapons in which I can claim that you're using an OP loadout that's bull and needs to be nerfed?
Yeah.
4, can I get different skins for my character that are no way representative, but I believe I'm so much better because I have this awesome skin? And 5, I want my little miniature to do little emotes.
The answer to all these questions is yes.
And is there DLC?
No, you said there's no sex. Come on.
It was part of it.
But it's still yes. And also your robots. Your robots in it. It's called Adrenaline. So that one sounds really fun.
So it's called Adrenaline, and we play as characters who do not have adrenaline.
Right, you are. Maybe you're people in mechs. I'm not actually sure. And again, there were many more, but the last one that's really big that we're going to talk about is the brand new version of Blood Bowl.
Right.
Which is a big
so
deal.
If you didn't know that, we've talked about this a little bit before, Game Workshop and Fantasy Flight decided to part ways. And any of the games that Fantasy Flight made that were under Game Workshop, such as Blood Bowl, Fury of Dracula, Talisman, pretty much they're ending by, I think, next February?
Warhammer stuff. Yeah, soon. Something like that.
Something like that. But Game Workshop instantly put up a site that was like hinting at all this, Blood Bowl stuff, and finally, we're getting to see what it is.
Yeah, so it's a brand new box, standalone, just published by them, as you said. But similar. It does rework some of the rules. I know there was some kind of a tripping, fumbling rule people didn't like that they've gotten rid of. But brand new miniatures. Same kind of Blood Bowl in a new package.
No, this is a really great sign because it's showing that Game Workshop is already, within moments. It's not even that February day where we said the official cutoff happened, that they're looking to make the games. Which means, we still have the chance to see Fury of Dracula come back and Warhammer. So all the things that we were worried about when we first talked about, they're doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That it is definitely a positive sign. It's a pretty quick turnaround from that announcement. So they must have had it in the works a little earlier before then, at least. But it looks pretty cool.
Well, like I said, I still think that part of the split was because of the Asmodee conglomeration. And my guess is they were just when they first happened, this just sort of we need to.
They might have had, this might have been this might have been planned to be a Fantasy Flight release, and then they were like, well, let's just switch it right over. Why do we still, if we had this, maybe they had some of the same designers or that kind of thing. I don't know.
I mean, that would make sense considering how Fantasy Flight has been doing a lot of second editions for their games.
Yeah, well, who hasn't? It's a big fun trend.
But overall, I do see this as a very big positive. It's a sigh of relief, honestly, for a lot of people, especially if you're a fan and you're like, great, I'm never going to have Blood Bowl stuff again. There it is.
There it is, and those are the games that we were talking about. Of course, there were lots more, again, Pandemic Legacy, a few other big ones like Enis/Inus. I don't know how you say it.
There's a lot of things we don't know how to say apparently right now.
Yeah, I know. Every game should have a pronunciation guide, but if you go online, you can find the various websites reporting further on these games. Some people who actually got to go and check it out, especially our news section, you can see some of those reports.